Greetings from the Newark airport. Anybody that keeps track, the code is EWR. And once again, I'm on the road. This is going to be the beginning of my Asian tour, and we're kicking it off with a trip on the longest airline flight so far in history. The longest scheduled airline flight, I guess I should say that. I'm flying from Newark in the United States to Singapore at the tip of Southeast Asia. I should explain how I selected this flight. As you know, I'm a sort of an airline agnostic now. Ever since Delta moved out of my local airport in Pennsylvania, I'll take whichever airline or fare that I can find that I think it is interesting or economical. When I was planning my Asian trip, I noticed that the Singapore Airlines flew from Newark to Singapore, and it wasn't until after I actually bought the ticket that I realized it was nonstop. And as I looked at the flight number SQ21, I found out that that's actually the longest scheduled flight so far right now in commercial aviation. So it's 18 and a half hours or 19 hours, I think, depending on who you talk to. But it's a long flight. And as you saw in the boarding pass, it's a premium economy seat, but that's kind of misleading because there are no economy seats on this flight. There's business, premium economy, and I think Singapore has their version of first class on this plane also, but I forget what they call it. So it's going to be a long flight. I'm kind of excited to try it out to see what it's like. I think my longest flight so far has been 15 hours, and that was from, if I remember correctly, from Dubai to Atlanta. But this will top that by a good 3 hours. I should clarify that my trip today is taking me to Singapore, but I'm not staying in Singapore. My final destination is Kuala Lumpur. But I will be staying at an airport hotel at the Singapore airport. So that's the first time I've done that. That should be kind of interesting. The other thing I wanted to point out is that I got my luggage under 10 kilos at 9.6 kilos. You recall in the last video of my travel stories, I was at 11 and a half kilos for the Southern tour, and I wanted to get it down to about 10. Well, I did that. It's below 10 kilos, it's 9.6. So I'm quite pleased with myself. I'm in seat 41G. It's nearly at the back of the plane. It is at the back of the plane. I asked the flight attendant if they had enough gas. He said yes. I'm sure that's the first time anybody ever asked him that. Are we there yet? Welcome to Singapore. Looks like it's a busy time here. I think it's a Saturday night. It's about 5:30. I'm in Terminal 3 at Changi Airport. And I'm trying to get over to Terminal 1, which is where my hotel is. There's a train. I'm trying to follow signs for the train. My flight to Kuala Lumpur isn't until tomorrow morning. And I'll have a couple of good hours of rest, I guess, at this airport hotel. First time I've ever stayed at one. Good morning. It's the next day now. I'm still in Singapore. In a few hours, I'll be boarding a plane for Kuala Lumpur. And I think I mentioned it yesterday or in another clip that I was spending the night in an airport transit hotel. And some of you might be wondering what that's like. Well, it's not that bad. It's just a regular hotel, except that it's at an airport. There are fewer rooms, of course, but they did have a swimming pool, and the cost of the room did include a free meal. One thing I did want to mention especially was the 19-hour flight from Newark to Singapore. I'm not sure I would ever do that again. Before you make a reservation like that, think hard about that. And I noticed in a recent development in air travel, well, not recent, this is back in the last couple of years, most of the time when you're in a plane, all the shades on the windows are pulled down. So the inside of the plane is pitch dark, except for the light you get from the entertainment systems, people on their phones, things like that. So after the first meal, which occurred about 2 hours into the flight, it was pitch dark the whole way to Singapore. And that's kind of disconcerting. It's kind of boring too, because you really don't get to see much of the plane. I would get up and wander around a lot and head to the back of the plane. I was sitting close to the back of the plane anyway, so I'd head back there and talk to the flight attendants for a little while. Well, I'm now officially back in Malaysia. I landed a little while ago, and I made a major scheduling blunder with my Airbnb. I'm here on the 10th of September, which is a Sunday, and the Airbnb reservation doesn't start until the 11th. So I had to make a quick reservation at a hotel downtown for one night to make up for that mistake. Mr. Travel makes all kinds of stupid mistakes, usually a big one on each trip. So I think this is it for this trip. But anyway, I'm going to be hanging out here at the airport until a little bit after lunch, so that then I can take the train into town and check into the hotel. After looking at that last batch of clips, I can honestly say I'm taking a vow right now. I'm never going to try to make another video where I'm recording my trip on an aircraft. I'm just not good at it. I've seen videos of people's trips on airplanes that are far better than anything I can do. And I'm not really sure why they're better. Most of the time they don't talk. It's all text on the bottom of the screen. Maybe that's the secret. But I've come to the conclusion that I'm terrible at doing that particular thing. And sitting around in an airport talking about what I just did, come on. It's not good. So no more of that. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm back in Kuala Lumpur right now. Here, I'll show you. Yeah, those towers, that's what most people come here to see. But this is also the starting point for one of my most favorite walks. I'm staying in a place down near Masjid Jamek. And I usually get on the train and come up here, and then get off the train and walk back. I forget how long it is. I think it's about 4, maybe 5 kilometers. So when everything's said and done, I have maybe 8 kilometers of walking for the morning. But we'll see how many it is when I actually finish. It's only 9 o'clock in the morning, and this downtown area seems awfully congested already. Not with cars, but with people. But the trip was not. The 19 hours spent on a Singapore Airlines plane was not completely boring. A few things did happen that I want to tell you about. The first thing happened before security at Newark Airport. About 3 people in front of me, there is a woman who was arguing with the person that checks boarding pass and passport, things like that, wanting to go through the gate and go through security. And the security guard said, no, you can't do that. And I didn't understand why. I didn't hear what happened up to that point. But then 2 more guards came over, and I guess one of the security guard, or the supervisors came by to check on things. And the woman had her passport, and she had a boarding pass, perfectly all right. The only problem was she was at the wrong airport. Her flight left from LaGuardia, not Newark. So I know exactly what happened there. She checked in online, got her boarding pass, and then just came right to the airport. Because otherwise, if she had to go to the check-in counters at the departure area, she would already have known that she was at the wrong airport and never would have made it down to security. So I can imagine the embarrassment she felt when she had to turn around and go back out and try to make it to LaGuardia on time for her flight. LaGuardia and Newark, they're technically in the New York area. They're one of 3 New York City airports, but I'm not really sure on where LaGuardia is, so I'm not sure how long of a trip that was or if she made it. But imagine showing up for a flight at the wrong airport. That would have been embarrassing. The other thing that happened was mainly amusing to me. I'm sure it wasn't amusing to the woman involved. But after the woman that had shown up at the wrong airport left, the woman directly in front of me, I think it was the first time she was ever on an airplane, because everything the TSA attendant said to her came as a shock. She couldn't understand why she had to remove her jacket. She couldn't understand why she had to put her bag in one of those little gray bins that they have. And when it came time to take off her shoes, it was like somebody was, accosting her somehow. Everything was a surprise. She wasn't in favor of any of that. So that held up the line. And I'm thinking that Newark has a bad reputation for stuff like that, and I didn't see any of it on my trip. Newark, it worked perfectly for me. Everything worked fine. But if they have many passengers, like the woman that was directly in front of me, I can see why security lines take so long. Because they have people that just aren't aware of what's going on. Anyhow, that still doesn't make up for my major blunder of scheduling my hotel or my Airbnb reservation to begin the day after I arrived instead of the day of my arrival. So I'm going to be living that one down for quite a while. I'm not going to let myself ever hear the end of that one. Chances are it won't happen again. So on this trip to Malaysia, I think I've got a few interesting things coming up. Just a few. Lady Aisha has pointed me in the direction of her favorite nasi lemak place. I'm going to try to see if I can find it on a map and go there tomorrow. And then I think I mentioned in another video that sometime in October, Lady Aisha and I will be attending the wedding of the century here in Malaysia, when Malaysian media superstar Grace H.R. Ling gets married. That's not until October, however. Until then, well, not until then, but right now I'm just going to wrap up this video, get to the editing booth, say thanks for watching, and be seeing you.